Hey everybody, my name is Robbie, lead pastor at Untitled Church, and I want to welcome you to our online campus. Today will be a time of worship, there'll be a few announcements, and then a really extra special teaching moment. I'm really excited about this one, so welcome and enjoy.
Well, welcome back, Salty Church. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for joining us again. Whether you're here in person or online, we want to welcome you. Let's all stand and sing worship together. Come on, let's sing this out. Our praise becomes your house, your place. 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 Oh God. Come on, do we believe that? Let's lift this up. We sing a song and you come in, make it dance and you come in, shout your name and you come in, give you praise and you come in, sing a song and you come in, make it dance and you come in, shout your name and you come in, give you praise. Oh, you inhabit the praises of your people. Oh, you inhabit the praises of your people. Our praise, come on, becomes your house, your place. Our praise becomes your house, your place. Our praise becomes your house, your place. Oh God, yeah. Come on, we're gonna lift this up together. We sing a song. We sing a song and you come in, make it dance and you come in, shout your name and you come in, give you praise and you come in, sing a song and you come in, make it dance and you come in, shout your name and you come in, give you praise. Oh, you inhabit the praises of your people. Oh, you inhabit the praises of your people. Yes, you inhabit the praises of your people. Oh, you inhabit the praises of your people. Yeah. Come on, we're gonna put our hands together like this. That's it. It's a celebration. We celebrate all the Lord has done. We sing from a place of victory. We sing with joy, because in His presence there is fullness of joy. With that in mind, let's continue to lift up these songs together. Come on, we sing a song. We sing a song and you come in, make it dance and you come in, shout your name and you come in, give you praise and you come in, sing a song and you come in, make it dance and you come in, shout your name and you come in, give you praise. We sing a song and you come in, make it dance and you come in, shout your gonna continue to sing songs together today. Come on, let's lift this up together. You're a loving Father, living water. You come and fill my cup. Come on, let's sing it out together. Precious Jesus, your love has freed us. In freedom now I say, 'cause I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid when I am in your presence. I have been changed, your love has made me fearless. Your love's a flame, you set my heart on fire. I'm burning with your love. Come on, let's sing Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, I receive it. Would you come and breathe your breath on me? Heaven come down. Heaven come down. Fill our hearts now. Make our praise your own. 'Cause I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid when I am in your presence. I have been changed, your love has made me fearless. Your love's the flame, you set my heart on fire. I'm burning with your love. I'm not afraid when I am in your presence. I have been changed, your love has made me fearless. Your love's the flame, you set my heart on fire. I'm burning with your love, yeah. Come on, we know his perfect love casts out all fear. And where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Amen. Come on, let's sing this out together. You can have my heart, take it all, take it all. You can have my life, it is yours, it is yours. You can have my heart, take it all, take it all. You can have my life, it is yours, it is yours. I'm not afraid when I am in your presence. I have been changed, your love has made me fearless. Your love's a flame, you set my heart on fire. I'm burning with your love. You made a way that I can face tomorrow. You washed away all of my sin and sorrow. Your love's a flame, you set my heart on fire. I'm burning with your love. 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 Come on, let's give him praise. Amen. As we continue to worship together, we're going to focus in on who Jesus is. He's the way, he's the truth, he's the life. He's the one who has made a way for you and me. So as we reflect on him and all that he's done, let's continue to sing together. Come on, sing this out. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Sing it out again. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Let's lift it up together. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship. He's turning lives around. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you, yeah. I worship you. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Sing it again. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Yes, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Yeah, that is who you are. 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 Oh, that is who you are. 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 Yeah, you are waymaker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Come on, sing it out. You are waymaker, promise keeper. My God, that is who you are. Even when we don't see it, even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Let's sing it out together. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Waymaker, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Yeah. Thank you, Jesus. We worship you. Thank you so much for singing with us.
Well, I hope that time of worship was encouraging to you. I know I need it regularly. And so with that said, we're going to transition. Let me tell you a couple of things about what's going on at the church, and then we're going to move into our teaching time. And number one is if you ever want to connect with us, remember, really the easiest way to do that is through the website, salty.org. There's a connection card that you can fill out. Whether you have questions, you want to sign up for something, you want somebody to reach out to you, that's a great tool to do that. So I want to make sure you know about that. And then there's a couple announcements. One, there's a big week coming up. Here in a few weeks, we have Mother's Day. So don't forget, it's Mother's Day. And there's two things that are going to happen that weekend. Number one, at the 10:30 worship service on all of our campuses, we're going to do a baby dedication. It's just a one time of year that families come together, and we want to honor the gift that God has given to us and dedicate those children to God. And then also on that same day, after church is over, we're going to have a baptism service. So if you've been looking at taking your first step of faith and you want to honor God with your life, then you can dedicate yourself to Him through baptism. And so both of those things are going to happen on Mother's Day. So it's going to be a really big weekend. If you need to sign up for that, you want to be a part of it, connection card. You can always go there and sign up for anything that we're doing. The other thing I want to tell you about was just a reminder, if you missed last week, Salty Family Services is a really big part of our ministry. They're helping to empower families to get them on their feet, independent of anybody else, and it's a really, really important ministry. Well, we do a thing called Call Me When. For those who want to be involved in that ministry, it's a form you fill out, and it says, call me when, and then you fill in the blank. So they will call you when, depending on how you set this up, whether you have a professional service that you can provide, or if it's a meal, or you're going to help somebody move, whatever it might be. If you want to be a part of empowering families, you fill out that Call Me When card, and you'll be on that list and be asked to help rescue a family when the time is appropriate. So I'm going to encourage you to check out the website, fill out that form if you're interested. Lastly, we have a time of giving. It's one of those things that we do as a part of our worship. It helps to fuel ministry. But more importantly, your giving is not about something you owe to God or paying God back or paying God off, where sometimes an understanding of giving might be like that. And that shouldn't be it at all. When we give, it's about keeping our perspective on the one who supplies our needs. That He is the one who He owns it all. He has given us all that we have. And so we give back because of what He has done to us, and it keeps our perspective on Him. It's an exercise of faith. So I want to encourage you to do that, whether it's through the app or on the website. You can always give, and your generosity always matters. Generosity changes everything. Lastly, we've got our teaching time, and I'm really excited, not because I'm not teaching, but because of who is. We gather together all of our campus pastors in one place and put them together such that they can teach together this, I think, really important topic for today. So hang on to your hat and enjoy this time together.
Hey, what's up, Salty? Good to see you today. Thanks for joining us online, or thanks for joining us on one of our campuses. So glad that you're here today. So we've been in this series called Pull Up a Chair for the last 2 weeks. The simple question was, hey, what are some topics that you are concerned about and you want to talk about that you would like to hear us talk about? So one of the top ones had to do with loneliness. So what do you do with loneliness? How do you combat loneliness? So we're going to talk about that today. I myself would say I'm not exempt from loneliness either. I've been married for 25 years, been in ministry for 25 years. I have 6 kids. There's 8 of us. But yet I'm not exempt from loneliness. I've had those times where I feel like nobody cares, nobody's listening. Who can I talk to? Am I all alone? So that's what we want to talk about today, because we know that this has been a difficult year for all of us. The isolation that you felt, the loneliness that you felt, the quarantine, if you will, and our kids too. You know, not going to school, not being able to see their friends. So this is something that's going to be good to talk about. And when I think about loneliness, one of the greatest movies I really love is Castaway. It's about Tom Hanks, who is a FedEx flyer. He gets in a plane crash in the ocean. He's the only one that survives. He ends up on an island by himself. No relationships, no community. He's there for 4 years. And during that time, to combat his loneliness, his isolation, he creates an inanimate object that you may remember called Wilson. It's a volleyball. But this became his best friend that he would talk to and that he would actually listen to. But it didn't speak and it didn't hear him. But we all, I think, have those Wilsons in our life. So we're going to talk about that today, loneliness, and what's that look like. So I've got these great gentlemen here with me today, and I want them to introduce themselves to you so we can start this conversation.
Hey, I'm Travis, campus pastor for Salty Church in Flagler Beach.
Jason, campus pastor right here in Ormond Beach.
And I'm Austin Trammell, campus pastor in New Smyrna Beach.
Hey, and I'm Jacob Netherton, formerly known as the campus pastor at Palm Coast.
All right. Hey, Jacob, why don't you start us with your own experience with loneliness and what's that meant to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, about 6 years ago, it's not going to be a long story, okay? So,
all right.
But 6 years ago, we welcomed our 4th child into the world, and he came into this world with a lot of complications, major heart defect, Down syndrome, that sort of thing. So, during that season of being in the hospital, we spent the first 3 months of his life in the hospital, was just really feeling lonely, and just feeling somewhat socially isolated because we were in the hospital, and really our community became the nurses and the doctors there and that sort of thing. But once we came home with him, then it amplified a bit, that feeling of socially isolated, because with his immune system being compromised, we didn't feel comfortable in taking him out to public places. Church was difficult to get to, and that sort of thing. And so really just not feeling like we could move about freely. And that brought a lot of isolation, really, feelings of loneliness. And so fast forward to just a year ago, this pandemic hits our world, and we just everybody's going into lockdown, that sort of thing, and it amplifies that feeling of isolation. We don't know if we can even take Malachi out of the house. Our kids go to online school because we don't want them to be compromised as well.
Too,
The whole thing is we could keep Malachi kind of in a bubble, but we all have to leave the bubble. And coming back, then there was a lot of fear, a lot of unknowns, that sort of thing. And so during this last year, we have our campus close, not really knowing what's next. My wife develops a condition she's got this extreme pain in her body, and I'm not telling this story as a pity party for Jacob Netherton, okay,
right,
or for the Netherton family by any means. I mean, obviously you can send me emails telling me that you're praying for me. You can send checks, cash, money orders to me to let me know that you love me. But that's really, the big deal was during this season, I had to become open and honest with some people.
Yeah.
And become vulnerable and let people know what's going on in our world. And let me say, Salty Church, you guys stepped up, and people came around us. They started bringing us meals. You know, I started meeting with a couple of guys every week just for accountability and prayer, and that was really life-saving for me, you know. And during this time, though, it's really been evident that there's a need for soul care, like what's going deep down inside of us, and why, what's feeding our loneliness, what's feeding our isolation. And it could be things like, for those at home, fear of rejection. It could be fear of getting the coronavirus. It could be just a lack of self-worth or self-esteem. And so, for those people at home or here at one of the campuses, just know that you're not alone in your loneliness, that we've been there, we're going through it, we're walking that journey right now together with you. But, the big thing is loneliness is really a pandemic. It's spread across our world. You could be in a crowded room and still feel lonely.
Right.
You could be in a household of 8 people, just like you, Derek, and still feel lonely. And so in our world, we have our cell phones, and the average American spends 38 hours a week on their cell phone staying connected, but yet we're lonely because 1 in 5 Americans say they feel not only lonely, but they feel socially isolated. That's 20%. So right now, we have the potential of 20% of our audience that would say, I feel lonely and socially isolated. And that stat goes higher for senior citizens. It's 43% of senior citizens. So, the big question is, when you feel lonely, when you feel socially isolated, what do you do? What do you do when you don't know what to do? Who do you reach out to when you don't know who to reach out to?
Yeah, I like that line. You're not alone in your loneliness, because nobody is exempt from it. And I think, like you said, our cell phone kind of becomes our Wilson,
That's
if you
good.
will, that we start talking
that's right.
to. So from a biblical perspective, Austin, what's the Bible have to say, and how does it reflect on loneliness?
It says a lot. It really does. So preparing for this, I did a good bit of research. Just how many times do we see loneliness? Who struggled with loneliness? And we see it all over the Bible. We see heroes of our faith that struggle with loneliness a lot. As a kid, I loved Captain America, right? And this guy would have been like Captain Israel back in the day to all the little boys and everything. And his name was Elijah. And he had this tremendous victory one time. And you guys know this story, but he was fighting against 450 prophets of Baal, this false god. But he wasn't fighting with his hands. He was praying. And he was going to show them who the one true God is. And he did. And just with a very, very, very simple prayer, he prayed this one prayer. Fire happened. All these crazy things happened in 1 Kings chapter 18. And it was amazing. They showed to the nation of Israel, to these false prophets, that there is only one true God. So you would think after a victory like that, you would be on cloud 9, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But he wasn't. He really started struggling. He started thinking, I was the only one at that battle. I was the only one praying for God. And so he kind of runs away. And in 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 10, he's talking to God, and he says, I've been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left, and now they're trying to kill me too. And he's saying, God, your people have killed people like me. They've killed prophets. They've done all of these things. I'm the only one left. And he continues on. And God so patiently, finally, he just responds and says, I reserve 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal, and whose mouths have not kissed him. 7,000 other followers of God were in Israel. It wasn't that he was the only one. It was just that he was disconnected.
Yeah, he created his own loneliness.
It's easy to get in your head in that way.
Yeah,
And forget.
start believing the lie.
Start to believe you're the only one that's feeling
And
that way.
Elijah was 100% in his own head. He thought he was alone. And I remember last year, during the lockdown, it was very difficult. I think we all battled with that. I remember being on Zoom meetings with you guys 2-3 times a week. Sometimes there would be 30 squares. Sometimes it was just us 5 shooting videos or whatever. But as soon as I logged off, I felt alone. I felt like I was the only Salty Church staff member, when in reality I wasn't. And we're all doing this together. We're all struggling together. So I want to thank you guys, though, really for that time last year that I could call y'all. I could talk to you. We did all these Zoom meetings, and it encouraged me. It helped me keep going because we stayed connected with one another.
Yeah, and during those Zoom calls, it was great to know that Derek, I know you felt alone being the only one that wasn't wearing pants, but I heard Jason wasn't either. So
Oh,
there you go.
I just
Leave it
wear
to
my
Travis
pajamas.
to talk about
Yeah.
pants, right?
Right, yeah.
Wearing
Travis.
pants.
Oh,
I just
Travis.
felt like in our Zoom meetings, I was just watching an episode of the Brady Bunch because all those squares,
Pretty much.
But really, what you're talking about, Austin, is perspective.
Yes.
In a lot of ways, is
Yeah.
this perspective of I'm all alone.
Yeah.
I have nobody to turn to, but God knows where we're at.
Yeah.
And you have other people here that know where you're at as well.
Yeah. Well, and I think we as pastors want to say to you, we feel alone from time to time. And for us, I look to the heroes of our faith. Like, how did they persevere through? I think about our Savior, Jesus Christ. What did he do? Did he battle loneliness? Yeah, multiple instances. And one of them that kind of really stuck out to me most was, so Jesus had thousands of people following him, like over 20,000 people at different points, because not only was he the Messiah, he was dinner and a show. He's feeding 15 to 20,000 people on a little boy's afternoon snack. My son Titus, every day we get home, he has some type of snack, tater tots, whatever. And that's his thing. Would be like me taking his tater tots and feeding 20,000 people off of it. So yeah, he's got people following him. He's walking on water. He took a blind man, spit in mud, rubbed it on his eyes, and he could see again. I mean, who doesn't want to see that?
Right.
But they're watching it for the show. They're not seeing what it is. And so Jesus got real in John chapter 6 and started talking about who he really was and how to truly follow him. And it says in John 6:66, from this time, many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him. And then he looks at his best friends and says, you don't want to leave too, do you? He's looking at his disciples, his buddies, like we are here, and he's saying, y'all aren't leaving too? He battled with loneliness just like we all do. And it's figuring out how to process through all of that.
Yes, which says no one's exempt from it whatsoever.
Exactly. No
And
one.
that loneliness is real. So we get it and we understand, we've experienced it. On the other end, as we kind of move towards what are some answers that we can find in loneliness and how can we combat it? Jason, you lead a great team of people who serve. And groups too, but with serving, does that have anything to do with moving forward?
Yeah, I think with all problems, there's solutions, but with those solutions, it takes intentionality, right? We have to be intentional. It's like that old, I don't know if it's really the definition or not, but the old definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. At some point, you got to break the cycle, and it takes an intentional step. And so, one of the things I know from my life, and one of the things I've seen with other people, is taking that step of serving other people. Because with loneliness, our perspective, it really narrows, and our focus gets more inward on ourselves. And so when you take that focus and put it on other people, it's amazing how much that combats all of this. In fact, there's a great example from Jesus in Scripture. In his loneliest moment, he's up on the cross. Right? Sure, John was there, his mom, some others, a bunch of Roman soldiers, but he was very much alone in that moment, very much deserted. And yet through it all, Jesus never took his focus off other people.
Yeah, people.
He was there serving and knew what he was there to do. And I think that sets a powerful precedent in our own lives, because really what's happening, a couple of things. Number one, God's changing our heart, right? God's helping cure us of that loneliness, but at the same time, God's using us to impact somebody else's life. I think as we talk about this big idea of loneliness, it runs rampant in our culture, in our world, and so what comes to mind is our blue shirts, our team that wears these shirts across all of our campuses. It's one of my favorite teams. I love serving with our blue shirts. They're amazing. And here's why. Because you know what? Sure, we could buy a $2 doorstop to hold a door open for our guests. And the door would be held open and they could walk right in. But you know what? Having a smiling face there in a blue shirt, is massively impactful. You know,
Big deal.
at surface value, you might think, well, what's a smile and just a friendly hello do? But it's a big deal because, again, people are coming in depressed. People are coming in lonely. As a matter of fact, you know, I think through this day and age, it's legitimate to think that people go an entire week without seeing a single person smile at them or have one single healthy interaction, and that's tragic. But it also opens up a massive opportunity for our teams like the Blue Shirts to make a significant impact in somebody else's life.
Yeah, you know, actually, a quick story about that. Somebody came to our campus one time, and one of our greeters said, "Good morning, beautiful people," to the people that were walking up, specifically to this one woman. And she came in, and she was doing her thing, you know, watching the service, interacting, whatever, slightly. But I watched her during the message. She started crying. And later I came up to her, and I said, "Hey, what's going on? Are you okay?" She said, "No one has ever told me I'm beautiful." So just that interaction, that smiling face, it's a huge deal.
It's an
I agree with what you
incredible
said.
aspect. I think, you know, for some of us, we kind of get that regularly with our families or friends, and there really are people who are all alone that never hear that they're beautiful or that, wow, that shirt looks amazing on you. Those simple things can really light somebody up and make a big change for the future. You know, and then the whole side bonus of serving others is you're a part of a team. You're a part of a community of people. You know, it's interesting to see the supernatural bond that takes place when you're serving side by side with people. You know, you look through like military, for example, veterans. It doesn't matter when and where you serve. Veterans have a really close bond with one another.
Yes, they do.
Police, fire, medics. You know, those careers that are built around serving other people. You see this supernatural bond take place.
Like mission groups.
Mission trips are a great example we've all experienced. You you go to another country with a group of complete strangers. You spend a week serving with one another. Next thing you know, you're lifelong friends. It's just powerful how that takes place. And so even right here on our weekly serving teams, I'm always so amazed at the level of community that they have with one another. That they're praying together, they're encouraging one another, caring for one another. I mean, I think just last week there were some of our Blue Shirts that went to help another Blue Shirt move. Like, those things are happening, and they're open for everybody. You know, and so for all of you, I would encourage you to take a step. It has to be intentional, and it's not always going to be the easiest for you to take. But what I got to say is, you go to salty.org, you hit that connect tab and join a team. That's all you need to do. And then for us to take it from there. But if I could just encourage you, when you take that step, you will be amazed at what God will do through just taking that one step to help cure of loneliness.
So there's power in serving, thinking of others, and not just yourself, to combat loneliness that we all face. So what about power in community, Travis? What's that look like?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. You referenced the movie Castaway. I love that movie too, but it's such a great illustration of our deep need and longing for connection. I mean, here's a guy that's stranded on a deserted island, like many of us feel, you know, in our loneliness, totally out there on his own for years. And suddenly the basic human needs are super important, right? Food, water, how's he going to eat? What's he going to drink? He needs some shelter. There's some cold nights. He's got to create fire. You know, all of these things. But something else that was super important was community.
And it's missing.
It was community. He created a friend out of a volleyball. You know, Wilson, it's one of those favorite lines we'll yell and scream through the house with our kids and laugh about. But what's not laughable is that he needed connection. He didn't have it. So much so that it drove him to leave the island. Like, he sustained life for years there. 4 years, you said, he was there. You know, everything was good except for that. He had food, he had water, he had what he needed, except for community. And so that relationship, that desire for relationship, deep relationship, drove him off that island. He risked his life for it. That's because we were designed and created for a depth of relationship that we just cannot get from these Wilsons we have in our life, these social media connections or workplace relationships that we say, hey, what's up to somebody, or even on a Sunday morning, though, high-fiving somebody and leaving it at that. I mean, we are created for more. In fact, in the Bible, in Genesis 2:18, God said at the very beginning when he created us, he said, man's not supposed to be alone, right? It's not good for us to be alone. So that's because God knew that we'd be a mess. Like, when Derek's alone, he goes wandering, and we don't know where he is, and we have to find him. Like, he's not supposed to be alone, right?
Not good
so,
at all,
like, we need connection. And so that's why at Salty we have the value, we're better together. because we really believe that life and faith is best lived out in authentic community.
Right.
And those relationships are formed over time, and I know it takes a step, but those relationships can be formed and they can be powerful in our lives. We're supposed to have relationships that are encouraging and comforting and that provide strength and help when we need it the most. You know, the love of God lived out in our lives through relationships. And so some of the most significant moments I've ever been through where I've faced trials, you know, like a broken down car maybe, or a house I couldn't finish building because, you know, the house company held me up for more money, or, you know, relationship issues with family members, or even in my marriage, substance abuse. Those things were navigated well only because I was in a small group environment, because I had a group in my life that cared for me. They were praying for me. They were hoping for me. They were giving me direction when I couldn't see it. And we all need that. And so I really want to encourage you to think about this. How do you find hope in the middle of your loneliness? Where do you turn when you have nobody there for you? Like, what are you doing to combat that loneliness? The scriptures tell us this. In Hebrews 10, verses 24 through 25, it says, "Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works." There's this hope we're supposed to be, it's just a few verses before that, it says there's this hope we're supposed to have, you know, holding on to hope and promises of God. And it goes on to say, how do we do that? We got to motivate one another. We got to remind each other of what's true. We got to love one another. Well, you can't love one another unless you're with one another. And then let us not neglect meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another now, especially as the day of his return is drawing near. And if you're finding yourself in that place where you're feeling deserted or isolated, I want to give you one simple step. Like Jason said, go to salty.org. If you're watching online, go to salty.org. Or even if you're sitting in the seats at a campus watching this right now, go to salty.org, fill out the connection card, or go and look at the groups that are available and just try. Step out and try, because you can stay where you are, you know, expecting different results, which we all know that doesn't work very well, right? Or we can step out and try something new and find hope and find healing and find community. And so take an opportunity to do that, or visit the Start Here sign on your way out if you're at one of our campuses. It's really important that you take that next step.
You know, Travis, as you were talking, it reminded me of a verse in Proverbs that says, "A person who isolates himself seeks his own desire." And for those watching, your desire may be a desire to never be hurt again, maybe a desire to never experience the pain of brokenness again, and so you isolate. But here's what I want you to know, is I want you to know that you matter to God, and you matter to us, and you're important. And so just like these guys have been saying, take that step, be intentional, reach out to someone, and break that isolation, because there's something better on the other side.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, I think the reason why maybe you've seen these guys the calmest, I've never seen them this calm before, is because this is such a real issue, you know, in everybody's life, that, like we've talked about, no one's exempt from it, from loneliness whatsoever, that Jesus even battled with it at times, and that there is a way out. There is a way out through thinking of others, through serving people like Jesus did, and through community, because we were all created for relationships and connectivity, and you only get that with other people. Now, one of the greatest relationships for you to have to get out of your isolation is with Jesus Christ. So we always want to encourage you to take that next step towards Jesus too. So as we kind of wrap up here, I appreciate all the authenticity and just being transparent. This is an issue for all of us, and I'm glad that you brought the issue up, because it's something that we need to continue to talk about through this time of our life right now and what we're seeing going on in society, so that you're not isolated and you're not alone. So some of the next steps that you can take that they've already mentioned is go to the Connect tab if you're online. Click on that. It'll take you to the next step, where we would love to talk with you, pray for you, help you out in any way. And if you're on one of our campuses today, you can simply go in the back of the room. That big sign that says Welcome Start Here, go back there. And again, the blue shirts, any of the campus pastors can help you out, can sit there and just listen to what you have to say, because we all need to be seen, valued, and heard to break this loneliness in our life. And here's the last one. Take the next step if you know someone that's going through loneliness and who is isolated. Maybe walk across the street, knock on their door. Whatever you have to do, help somebody out that feels lonely. But remember, you're not alone in your loneliness. There's somebody there for you. So thanks for joining us today. It's been a good time, a good conversation that we'll continue to have until we see each other next weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.